Got the best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick-a-tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Geeks Vegas Lines DFS and Betting Angles breakdown. This is for NFL Week 4. We're presented by DFS Army, of course, as always, and Sports Bet Army, where you can get all the daily fantasy sports and sports gambling advice that you need to crush. Level the playing field. Sign up at dfsarmy.com as a VIP. You get access to all of our tools, the optimizer, the projections, the chat, all the great stuff that has caused us to constantly crush every single week, FanDuel and Draftkings. And, of course, sportsbetarmy.com, where you can actually get John's picks, advice, power rankings, betting models from our team of pros. College football has been crushing. Just really great tennis. John, you're doing tennis now?
Yeah, I mean, if you're bored, we got tennis going on, French Open. So, I mean, these matches start at like 5 a.m. We got everyone's going nuts because we've been doing really well. So everyone's excited to get up early and watch some tennis from France.
The tennis record has been spectacular. So, like, really impressive. Great stuff. And printing cash over there at Sports Bet Army, guys. You got to go check it out. If you're a DFS Army current VIP subscriber, make sure you DM one of us in DFS Army Slack. There's a special discount for DFS Army subscribers. You got to check this out. We also crushed our debate bets last night. You know, it's not a regular thing, but we crushed it.
I passed on that. I did not. I didn't even have a chance to watch it yet. I just read the highlights.
The one place I got burned, the one bet it felt like a lock for me, was Trump says Sleepy Joe. How do you not say Sleepy Joe?
That's really shocking. And that was a big favorite, right? That was like a minus 300.
Yeah, that would seem like the lock of the night. I was like, man, this got me. But a lot of the others, my favorite bet of the night was Biden walks out with no mask.
Yeah, I think I might be glad I didn't watch it. It
wasn't.
It's pretty sad.
If you didn't have,
leave it at that.
If you didn't have bets on that, and you watched it anyway, you did not come out with a happy feeling. That's just a brutal. Just, turn it off halfway through and put on Netflix. There's something better on. But with betting on it, it's fine.
Yeah, no, well, listen, betting makes everything more fun, right? That's why we do it.
This is what we do, guys. Add action and excitement to everything. I don't care what it is. That's the beauty of Sports Bet Army. I really love it because you want action. There is action there today. You might think there's no games. There is a game going on, and there's action going on Sports Bet Army and DFS Army if you're into fantasy action. There's always something happening. NASCAR and just so much stuff going on. Now, we are, on that note, we are sponsored by No House Advantage, which is a props for cash daily fantasy sports hybrid game. It's really good stuff. You pick a bunch of props, take a side. Will DK Metcalf score a touchdown this week? Yes or no? Will I probably should have prepared this, but will Derrick Henry rush for over or under 74 yards this week? Those type of things. You rank them based on your most confident to your least. You get scored. If you do well, you win cash. It's a really great game. It's new. If you go to nohouseadvantage.com and use promo code ARMY when you sign up, they will give you a $20 match on your initial deposit, which you could play for props games. And it's just another way of doing daily fantasy. It's really shark free and it's a really great format. So Check them out, nohouseadvantage.com. Now, what we do here on the Geeks Vegas Line show is we break down all the games of the week from a daily fantasy football and betting angles perspective. And normally we start, John, by picking out a core 4 games to really dive into deep. And those are usually the exciting daily fantasy games of the week, the high total games. This week, we have an unprecedented, I think it's 7 games with totals over 50 points. Not fantasy points, over 50 actual points. Has this ever happened? This many high total games on one slate, especially the Sunday only, not even counting Monday night or Sunday night?
Off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know if that's a record, but I would venture to guess that's the most we've ever had. It's most I could really recall seeing.
I have never seen anything like it, and it's super exciting for daily fantasy purposes because most weeks, like last week, there were 2 games that just stood out above all others. And, you know, for the beautiful fact that it worked and it won you the million if you stacked up the Seattle-Dallas game like we said to, but and it worked. Great. But there was only one game and everybody stacked it, so you really need it to be unique. This week, we have 6 or 7. I mean, let me count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games on the main slate with totals over 50 points. Unheard of. And so we are expanding our core 4 section to a core 7 section, and we will look into every one of those games in depth from a betting angles and daily fantasy perspective. And then we'll do a lightning round where we take a look at some of these other games who we're mostly going to ignore this week for fantasy purposes because there are 7 games with 50-point totals. There's absolutely no reason to mess with the other ones. So, without further ado, here is the Core 4. That's right.
Dude,
we just leveled up that technology.
So professional, man.
Technological level up. Right there. Now, first game on the docket. We've got the Saints going to Detroit to take on the Lions in a game with a 54-point total. Now, the interesting angles for me on this game, John, Alvin Kamara has been borderline a cheat code without Michael Thomas in there. You see it in the way that they're running the Saints offense. They are throwing to Kamara at a higher pace than ever before. He's more involved in the offense. They're not taking him out like they used to as much to bring in Kamara. He's got 14 targets last week. 13. I mean, it's unheard of for a running back. 139 yards through the air. The week before that, 9 targets, 95 yards through the air. So what we are seeing here with Kamara, sans Michael Thomas, is something very, very special and something we can really rely on for production. That's pretty much the whole Saints offense.
It is, and we've talked about this before with Drew Brees. He has just not been the guy, even in these high total games, he's not the guy that you want at the quarterback. So this is an interesting situation where we might, if Thomas is out, there might not be a lot of good options. Cook is also hurt as well at the tight end spot, so that even gives more value to Kamara. Interesting here where if you're going to stack the Detroit side or stack the game, you might take a Stafford with one of those top 2 wide receivers, possibly the tight end, and then actually come back with Kamara. That would be the move.
That's how I would do it as well. I with 7 games to pick from, even though Brees' salary down a little bit, he has not shown 30-plus point upside probably for a couple of years now as far as his quarterback play. Even in that monster game, he didn't get there. Drew Brees is just not getting there at all. So
the thing is, this is one of the best matchups he'll ever have to throw for some big yardage. But I just don't know if we could trust him. I mean, in mass entering, you're going to want to have a few maybe, but certainly not if you're single entry, 3 max, 20 max, something like that. You're probably not going to want to use any of Drew Brees.
He's not the quarterback to focus on because, again, his pass catching options are limited. And it's just as likely for Kamara to run one in or for Lats Murray to steal one and Taysom Hill. What up, Taysom? And come in and steal one.
That's actually a great point, too, because they get inside the 5-yard line. All of a sudden, Hill is in the game. and it kills a lot of the cheap touchdowns that Breeze might be able to throw for. So Breeze is limited to really longer touchdowns. He's not throwing anything deep.
And they don't have a deep threat
they don't
wide
have
receiver on the
and
team.
And he doesn't have the ability to throw it deep. So
Yeah.
the only big passing plays that they generally have are short passes to Kamara, like you saw the other night with that crazy run that he had. So, I don't remember what the stats were, but Kamara had how much yard, just in receiving. He had pretty much all of Drew Brees' yards.
He went crazy. Again, 14 receptions. Where this was an incredible game for Alvin Kamara. 14 receptions, 14 targets, 13 receptions, 139 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. So while that worked out for Breeze because there were 2 receiving touchdowns, man, what if those 2 receiving touchdowns turn into 1 receiving and 1 rushing touchdown or 2 rushing touchdowns? It tanks Breeze. I'm not touching him here. He's not on my I need to play him list. Now let's look at the other side of this one though. So, Matt Stafford also not having the type of a season so far as of yet where, he's putting up these he hasn't even hit the 20-point mark so far, but he does get all of his weapons back. This is a matchup that does favor the pass. They don't do much in the running game in Detroit. It's not like they're doing a whole lot. And what I like about this one, John, is the Saints defense is very good against the run. Like that's what their specialty is. So if you're going to score against them, that's why the opponents for the Saints have done so well this season. And from a fantasy scoring perspective, if you're going to score against the Saints, it's usually via the pass. And that tends to favor Matt Stafford's situation.
Yeah, no, I was going to bring that up as well before you did. The running game, generally, I mean, we don't generally like the Detroit running game anyway. In this matchup, it's just unplayable. But from a receiving standpoint, yeah, that's where you're going to get the points here is from the Detroit passing game. Saints defense, maybe not quite as good as they were last year so far early in the season. Still don't want to target them against the run. So yeah, you've got the usual candidates on the Detroit side, but Stafford's in play here. Galladay, Jones, Hawkinson. Those are the guys we need to look at. And like I said, you're limited on what you could come back with. So sometimes these are good games because there's not a lot of options. If you throw Breeze out, you throw the wide receivers out, you throw the tight end out, you're left with Kamara in a high-scoring game, and then you've got just your choices you need to make on the other side of the ball.
Absolutely, and for me, Stafford is, if I'm using him, he's a stack with 2, and I'm bringing it back with Kamara. That's how I'm using him. So I need to make sure he doesn't do enough where he'll get there without 2 of his pass catchers also having explosive games. So he's a stack with 2 guy for me. It could be Hawk, it could be Galladay, it could be Marvin Jones Jr., but it's got to be 2 of them with him, and then ideally I'm going to bring it back with Kamara just to play the whole narrative of the high-scoring affair. That's the way I would play this one. Any betting angles here of interest? I mean, you've got the Saints -4. They're on the road. We don't care about road teams anymore, I guess, but like maybe I do.
Yeah, that road, obviously the road, the home road, not quite as important these days with the lack of fans. The number seems a little low, I think, which is always scary. That seems like a game people are going to value the Saints a lot more than they value Detroit. Detroit just, they're just fairly a fairly messy team, but I think I'm kind of leaning on the under, to be honest with you, in this game. I know it's one of the games that we're targeting because of the high total. I wouldn't be shocked here just because of the injuries on the Saints side, and the fact that the Saints defense is not terrible here, that they keep this game. I'm not looking for a game in the teens, but something in the 40s here. I think this could be a decent under.
If you're a believer in trends, last week's Arizona-Detroit game played to the under.
It did. Yeah, that game was interesting. That was a good game to knock out a lot of people in the in survivor pools. A lot of people liked Arizona the way they were looking. So Detroit's just one of those teams. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get. Saints coming off of that Green Bay game. A lot of people are going to look for a bounce back here from the Saints. So And I think with the 4 on that game, I think you're going to see a lot of action on the Saints side.
I like it. All right, let's move on to game number 2 in our Core 7 group of games. Like that transition. I can't get. I don't know if I should be doing that between every game, but I just like it. All right, Arizona, the aforementioned minus 3.5 point favorites on the road at Carolina. I love this game. 52.5 point total. John, this was the game that got my eyes like really wide this week because neither team has any sort of a defense. They don't really care about it at all. Offensively, both teams have explosive players that can score. And very interestingly, the reason, one of the first things I look at every week is the wide receiver position. I go, who looks good? And, the ones who stood out to me the most, the ones who projected like the most undervalued on DraftKings and FanDuel in terms of the salary relative to what they can deliver were the wide receivers for the Panthers. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore seemed like very underpriced relative to what we're projecting here. So I love this game, man. What do you think?
I agree with that assessment as far as the Carolina wide receivers. I think you're getting pretty good prices here. So when you're looking at the the point per or the point per dollar, I think the Carolina side of the ball is where you have to look. But obviously, the premier guy right now, I think, is Hopkins. For me, I think he's going to be the premier. He's the premier guy in all of football. Certainly, no reason to not like him in this game. Where they got him priced at? 8,500.
He's 8,500. His price has climbed to the point. And what I wrote on my note, and I already did my DeAndre Hopkins note, was like his price has climbed to the point where it's starting to be prohibitive. Because if I get the same beautiful 23-point fantasy score from DeAndre Hopkins that he's been delivering every week, I'm not sure that pays off his salary. Like I'm just not sure it's enough, but yeah, if I can get him.
You know what's interesting? The last time he was 8,500 was week 16 last year against Tampa, and it was his worst. I believe it was his worst week of the year. So that was interesting. He pretty much got shut down. Five receptions for 23 yards, no touches against Tampa. That was a similar situation, as you know, Tampa, and we still kind of like to target against Tampa, but a game where. Obviously, he was with Houston last year, a game that we were targeting, and that high price point, it bit everybody. But, I mean, since then, he's going to get, obviously in cash games, he's the type of guy, he's got such a high floor that he's always a play. He's always a possibility. I could see he'll be, just because of that price, going to be a little less owned here in the GPPs. So, still love the option. I still love that play. When I figure out my percentages as far as likelihood to get that 60 points in a stack, I'm sure they're going to be pretty high. So, how did they do last week? It was 26, 27 points from Hopkins, and Murray was. Well, I think they got the 60, right? They did.
I'm
barely.
not sure.
Yeah,
26.7 from Hopkins, and Kyler got us
61 and change. Yeah.
No, 24.7 from Murray, and 26.7 from Hopkins was just under. It was under 60. It was like 55.5. So almost 56.
Hold on. It was 24.7
and 26.7
and 26.7. That would be over, right?
No.
That's under. That's 50.
Yeah,
that's 50. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. Yes,
over 50.
They came under.
Yeah.
So so they did come under. They were the highest projected to.
I mean, they were close. In fairness, it was really close. So, I mean, what is it, 53? I mean, it was really close.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. When you pay up at wide receiver for this guy, if there are other exciting, and this is what we're going to find on the slate, and you're going to see this too as we break this all down, there are so many sexy options that it's going to be difficult to blow 8,500 on one player, on DraftKings in particular, when there are a lot of 5 and 6K wide receivers who I think can deliver 25 to 30 fantasy points. And that's who I want in my tournament lineup. Hopkins, lock in 25 for cash. I might do that in a cash pay-up scenario. But when you do that, you're also sacrificing Kamara. There's no having both of them together. So you're going to have to make that. There's decisions to be made that are going to be hard decisions. Man, shit wasn't easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
The one thing I like about Hopkins, though, is I feel like he is now the guy there. I mean, obviously he's the guy, but there's less options. I mean, I love these situations like with New Orleans where we feel like there's one really good option. I think there's one option here with Arizona, and then Drake as well. So we could be looking at running back here as well.
Drake
running backs.
Drake is going to be hard to pull the trigger on, but maybe that's the best situation for tournaments when it starts to be really hard to pull that trigger. They're clearly not throwing to him that much, and just Kyler's in there taking the tutties, man. He's just taking them.
That is a problem, but you could run on Carolina.
I know.
So that could be. I think Drake. I'm not gonna jump off of Drake just yet. I think this could be the week where we see Drake as the play. I know
you could run on Detroit. I mean, you can run on Detroit too. He hasn't gotten there. So yeah, we have to keep. But let's stay off of that on cash. That's going to be more of a tournament, low ownership situation for sure. Now on the flip side of this game, dude, Mike Davis, big game, bad matchup last week. 9 targets. I don't even care about the carries. 9 targets, 8 receptions at the Chargers. Now the Chargers are a team that do funnel this sort of this type of play. The Chargers drop, they don't blitz, so they're going to drop the safety back into coverage every single play. They generate pressure. They've got a great defensive line that can generate pressure without needing to blitz. And what that leads to, is basically a run funnel, especially a throw to the running back approach, which we saw from the Panthers as they went on to beat the Chargers last week. And again, 9 targets for Mike Davis, but he's the workhorse, dude. And this Arizona team, it just sets up well for a big day for Mike Davis. Straight up, he's going to be one of my favorites on the week. I just don't see why we wouldn't be very excited to play him here.
Nah, I mean, it looks like he's in a fantastic matchup, as you said. So I think the only thing that we might get lucky on is the fact that he was so talked about last week, and perhaps maybe some people will come off him a little bit this week. He had a good week, but it wasn't.
He was great last week. He crushed. Yeah, no, he was great. I mean, the only reason you might get off it is to get cute and be like, everybody's getting on.
Everybody's going to be on it. But
it's hard to pay up for a guy that you're used to seeing cheap. But
he's up to what, 5,700 now?
57. So yeah, and again, a great week 1, 23.5 fantasy points. Not week 1, his first week out there.
His first week starting. I mean. Again, the worry there was that they were going to maybe use some, that he wasn't going to get the workload, and obviously no one's going to get the same workload that McCaffrey gets. But still, at that price against this defense, could be money.
It feels
and the wide receivers. So you've got a lot of options. I hate that when we have a lot of options, but we could play because all these wide receivers are close on the Carolina side.
It's Robbie Anderson and it's Davis and. My guess would be two out of the 3 will do great. Maybe one will disappoint. It's possible all 3 do great.
So basically, this is a game because of the prices outside of Hopkins, where we can play multiple players in this game. Hopkins obviously is going to be a little prohibitive in your lineups, but would you be okay playing a wide receiver from Carolina with Davis? And coming back with, you still could come back with Hopkins.
I think the craziest approach and the more interesting tournament approach is going to be throwing Teddy KGB in there at the quarterback position. You can pair him with even Mike Davis because he's doing most of his damage via the pass. You throw DJ Moore in there, who has been the disappointing player compared to like the cute player in Robbie Anderson. I think DJ Moore remains the better wide receiver. So you throw Moore in there. And now, because I started with such a cheap starting stack of Bridgewater, Moore, instead of going Kyler Murray, now I can afford DeAndre Hopkins into my lineup without destroying it. So rather than play the Murray angle here, there's definite interest for me in playing the Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback angle, although I will be doing a lot of both because Kyler Murray can make it happen with his legs as well. So all of that, Davis, Hopkins, Moore, Anderson, Kyler, all awesome plays for me on this game. Any betting angles to look at here? Like, what are we thinking here from this total? Or maybe the spread, being. I mean, it's hard to -3.5. That's it. You know what I mean? Arizona, I thought they were good. I thought Carolina stinks, but yet here we are.
Yeah, 3.5 again. I mean, it looks low. That looks like a game. I'm going to want to see how this progresses throughout the week and see which way the line moves. Something I do. Sometimes you want to see, especially when that number is right around the that key number of 3. So it's sitting there at 3.5. Which usually when a game is sitting above that hook, or they're giving you the hook on that game, it's enticing to take the underdog because you're getting that extra half a point. In this game, though, I think the public's going to be on Arizona. I don't think there's a lot of confidence in Carolina, but I think maybe you're getting a little value here because Arizona coming off that bad performance last week. I do like Arizona in this game. However, 52.5, I tend to think that's going to. This looks like a game that could go over.
All right. Here we go. Next up, Cleveland at Dallas. Dallas is coming in at home at 4.5-point favorites with a total of 55.5 points, John. And right off the bat, this line stands out to me too, man. I looked at it, and I'm thinking Cleveland kind of sucks this year. Dallas is good offensively, even if it hasn't necessarily been complete games from this offense plus defense. They've been playing some of the best offensive teams in the league, and so the games have been close and high scoring. But what is going on here, man? They're only 4.5-point favorites at home against Cleveland?
Yeah, this. I mean, it just looks like a sucker line. These first 3 games, honestly, look a little suckerish. Like they kind of want to suck you in on these games. Yeah, Dallas at home, 4.5. Cleveland. I mean, Dallas. Offensively, I mean, and then obviously this is a high total. Dallas has been, we were going over it, how many 50-point games there were this year, and I think Dallas has been at least 2 of them.
They could have been all of them.
They might have been all 3. Yeah, I think all 3 weeks they were 50-point. They had a 50-point total in their games, and they've gone over on 2 of them. Yeah, because the Ram game they were a 50-point total as well, and that game was
disappointed.
Kind of low scoring. But you're talking about Dallas was the number 1 offense yardage-wise last year. And they haven't really slowed down at all.
Are they overvaluing or undervaluing Dallas's defense here based on the fact? I mean, they played Seattle and Atlanta. Those are 2 of the most explosive offenses in the entire National Football League. And so it makes the Dallas defense maybe look more terrible than it is, because to me, Cleveland's offense is very mediocre, maybe on the bad side, especially if they fall behind and they're not able to sort of just control a game with the run like I don't think they'll be able to do here. So is there a misjudgment here on how bad Dallas is defensively?
It's possible. I mean, I have this game at 53 on a total, but I have the line. I have the line that should be a lot higher. What did I have this line at? I had this line at a touchdown, which I think you would have looked at as, okay, that sounds about right. Like Dallas a touchdown favorite here.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, which is what scares me when I see the 4.5, right? Because it just looks like 7 looks like the number, and everyone is going to jump on Dallas here at the 4.5, and I hate those. It just looks like they're kind of trapping you into that bet. 55.5, I think, is a little high for the reason, Dallas defense not great, but I think that Cleveland offense is just, I mean, they're struggling to put points up. I've got it when you look at when you look at the rankings. I mean, I don't have Cleveland putting up a whole lot of yardage on the passing side of this game. They just haven't done it, and they're not using it. They're not trying to throw all that much here. Baker's just, Baker's a fade. OBJ's been these guys on the passing side of the ball have just been a fade. I would say the only, so it's an interesting game where is this the highest 55.5? Is that the highest one of the day?
It's the highest on the slate.
Yeah, highest on the slate, and I don't know if I like one side of this game from a stacking. I don't like one of these teams. So it's interesting. We've got 2 situations. You got the New Orleans situation where we love the running back, don't necessarily love any of the pass catchers. I'm sort of in that same boat. Don't love Chubb nearly as much as Kamara, of course, but I don't love the pass catching side of the Cleveland game. On the Dallas side, I mean, they're just clicking offensively. I mean, Dak is continuing where he was last year. From a fantasy standpoint, you got to love what they're doing. Dak's throwing he's just putting up 400 yards every time they get out there against these teams. Now, granted, they were in two situations.
When they need it.
They needed it.
I'm not 100% convinced in this game that it's going to be a needed situation because, again, the offensive explosions from the Cowboys have been against the best opposing offenses that they're going to face. Again, it doesn't get much better than Seattle. It doesn't. I mean, it's KC, but it's right there. Seattle's up there as the best offense in the league. You've got Atlanta, who, while they lose every game, they score a lot of points on the way to those losses. One of the most baffling teams for me that I've ever seen over the last 2 years. And so those were great offensive teams. Now we're talking again about a Cleveland team who's been less than inspirational offensively. The only thing they really have done well is run the football, and you're not like going to be able to run the football down 14 in the second quarter to Dallas. You're going to have to throw it, and you're going to have to complete a pass to Odell. You're going to have to complete a pass to Jarvis Landry. Austin Hooper, is he hurt now? I don't know what his deal is, but we can't trust Hooper at this point. So is he hurt? He might be. No, maybe he's fine. Yeah, no, he's fine. He just sucks so far this season. So I don't know, man. I think this is a play to the under game, and I could see a lot of running slowing down the game. I could see Dallas maybe shifting back to a Zeke-heavy game plan here and just sort of running it out, getting one of those 24-20 wins, and we're all like, hey, why the fuck was that a 55.5-point total, and how did we not bet the under?
I could definitely see this game on the underside because you're coming off those two games that you mentioned, the Seattle and the Atlanta game. For Dallas, games in which they absolutely had to just throw the ball to get back in those games. Could have won both of them in dramatic fashion. The Cleveland offense, just like I said, not inspiring, and it's been 2 years now. It's a little over a year, I should say, with Mayfield. I mean, if they're going to do something, you can score on this Dallas defense, but I'm not banking on that here. So yeah, I think Zeke's the play because if the game goes as it should, then we should see a lot of Zeke. We haven't really seen them just kind of pounding Zeke for a game, and this could be that type of a game.
I think it can go one of two ways, and it's a beautiful thing that we have a week where we can pick and choose these juicy, 55-point total games. Listen, we're not that much smarter than Vegas. In the end of the day, if they're saying it's got a good chance to go 55.5, it does have a good chance to go 55.5. We are, trust me, we're not outsmarting them by more than like 5 to 8% of the time at best. So if they're saying that, it's got a shot. And for that reason, we could take a few Mayfield crazy stacks with Odell and Jarvis Landry. Sure. And this could be that game where Mayfield has a good game. Everybody's got it in. These are National Football League players. And it's not like Baker is not a guy who can put up 30. It's happened before. But, do I want to build my entire strategy for the week around that? No. So that's kind of how this goes. All right. Next in the core four. Next game. Vikings travel to Houston to take on the Texans. Texans are 4-point favorites, 54-point total. Another sexy total. Now, John, does anything stand out about these lines to you that make you want to jump on a bet real quick?
I think the totals are actually standing out for me. I just think they're inflated just because of how high the scores have been so far early in the year. I think they're jacking these totals. I think we're going to make I think blindly betting the unders this week will wind up being profitable. And this is another game, because when we look at it as DFS players, sometimes we can become better handicappers as well. A lot of these games is like one side. There's one side of the game where you're kind of questioning how are they involved in a 54-point game, a 54-point total, and
how do they get there?
Yeah, I mean, in Minnesota,
they've run heavy team.
They'd like to be. They finally got Cook more involved. Last week, people were kind of waiting for Cook to do what he can do. This is an interesting. These are two teams that can throw a stinker up there offensively any week. I had this game at 50 on the total. I actually have Minnesota as I understand why Houston's a favorite, but I don't know. 4-point favorite seems like a lot in this game. These two teams seem a lot closer than 4 points. I mean, you just looked at that other game. Is Dallas seems a lot better in a lot better situation against Cleveland than Houston does here against Minnesota.
Minnesota has been epically bad in the secondary. Like, here's what we need to do, John. We got to adjust our mind space from the Vikings defense of yesteryear that was very good overall and certainly very, very good against the pass. That has not been the case. Let's not forget what's happened in all Vikings games. We started with the Aaron Rodgers point explosion in week 1, right? That was this team. Then I need to go bring up their defense to see who the hell they played, but I have researched this, and trust me, they've been getting their ass kicked week after week. In week 2, it was the Colts, who just put 28 up on them real easy, no problems. And then, of course, another offensive explosion from the Titans last week. A lot of that in the running game, but the Packers put up crazy numbers via the they've just been bad. So Minnesota, maybe not the defense that we remember them to be. The issue for me is a lot more on the ability of the Vikings to score quickly that I'm concerned with in terms of the game total, because they're definitely not an explosive offense. They don't have Stephon Diggs. They don't have anybody like that that can stretch the field and put up points in a hurry. Adam Thielen's a great player. He's not Tyreek Hill, and he's not Stephon Diggs. He's a possession receiver. He's not explosive play guy. And Dalvin Cook is a slow and steady, running back. Not to say that he's not an explosive running back, but anytime you're pushing your offense to the running back position, it's 5 yards, 3 yards, it's a first down. It's not 2 plays, touchdown, other team scores, we need to score again, that we want for our fantasy scoring purposes. Houston, on the other hand, I like everything from Houston in this game. I think Deshaun Watson stands out as the best quarterback play on a points per dollar basis on the slate. And I mean, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, and my favorite maybe of them all, the very hated, often, ripped on, forgotten, called washed up, David Johnson. Full workload running back in an elite matchup, a guy who's going to be getting all of the touches for his team. I'm pretty sure that the Duke is injured. I need to see if that injury is going to last another week. But what do you think about David Johnson here, man? He's not a guy I normally like to play, but in this spot, I like him.
Yeah, he stole a little bit of my thunder, because I was going to say, with this high total, again, I like both running backs in this game more than anything else, more so than I mean, Watson's definitely in play here, but I would not be shocked here if both running backs do well. I don't typically like to play 2 running backs in the same game, so I might just pick I might not have them a whole bunch in when I'm mass entering together, but I could see either or being the play right here, and I do like David Johnson here. You could run on Minnesota. As you talked about, this is not the same Minnesota defense that it has been. The thing about Houston is they played 3 pretty good defenses so far this year. So there's a chance here that we're just kind of that we have not seen the Houston offense click as it might against a Minnesota team that's really given up a bunch of points here in the first 3 weeks of the season to everyone that they've played. Houston played Kansas City, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. It's
a murder. This is what I wait for, John. I wait for these situations, guys, and I want everybody listening at home. This is the ultimate thing I look for every single week. We forget that we haven't played Deshaun Watson any of the weeks because his matchups were terrible, and then we look at the box scores and we look at the game logs and we're like, well, he hasn't been doing that much. Well, yeah, we haven't been playing him. His matchups are a murderer's row of pass defenses. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Kansas City. No, Kansas City's not. They're very good against the pass. So look what they just did to Lamar Jackson. They are a surprisingly good pass defense over in Kansas City. So teams that are coming off of that, their logs all look diminished. Their salaries on FanDuel and DraftKings all diminished. This is the recency bias. We need to fight recency bias with all of our might. There's nothing more critical in DFS than fighting it. And John, I need you to explain this to me, because there's sometimes it's recency bias, and then sometimes that player just sucks, that year. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
the hard thing to figure out. That's the part that's hard.
It is. You've got to go back kind of and look in situations like this. I want to look at what people thought before the season.
I've got an analyst from Minnesota in the chat. He's saying they will be the worst pass defense in the league by the time all is said and done. That is a local man, Alex Kangas, giving us the inside info.
That is that's a bold statement.
He is a hockey playing, ice fishing, sit in a tent all day in a fucking ice thing, freezing your ass off with the fishing rod in a lake guy, okay? Goes from the northern reaches of Minnesota. That's real.
I talked to someone from Minnesota one time. They were talking about couldn't wait to watch the hockey game that night, talking about hockey for a while, and then finally, I assumed it was the NHL. They were talking about watching like college hockey, Minnesota Gophers.
They're watching college hockey out there. These guys are, hunting animals and shit and eating deer. Okay, that's real America right there. Not like where you and I come from.
Well,
no.
There's not
Don't
a lot
even
of
start.
Yeah, not a lot of wildlife.
There's a lot of wildlife in Brooklyn, but it's a different kind of wildlife.
Yeah, it's different. You're not allowed to shoot that wildlife.
No, don't shoot.
No.
Just observe from a distance. So there we go. That's salt of the earth. Gopher. The Gopher. Everybody's got a local team called the Gopher. So yes, very bad defensive team that we don't think of as a bad defensive team. But I want to get back to my point of the recency. But I wait for these situations. Teams that are coming off a murderer's row of opponents. Now it eases up. Let's see if the logs look really different. And let's see if their salaries on the sites are presented as a bargain for these couple of weeks while people still think like, oh, Deshaun Watson is not good anymore.
Well, that's again, I want to just go. I know a lot of people look at the rankings. So we're still looking back at last year. Minnesota defense is like we've been talking about, probably not as good as they were a year ago. So those numbers are going to be a little deflated for what we're projecting on Houston. So don't be afraid to target Houston in this game at all.
All right. Let's move on to the next exciting game on our docket. Seattle, -6.5 at Miami. Guys, everybody wants to talk about this game. It's a 54.5 point total. It's the sexy Seattle Seahawks. And it's my boy, Fitzmagic, on the flip side, just throwing the football to a narrow group of wide receivers. What's better than this? Nothing. Nothing is better. They're at Miami. Fitzpatrick. All right. Can I just throw the weapons out? We know who he's going to throw to. He's going to throw to Mike Gesicki. He's going to throw to Devontae Parker. He's going to throw to Preston Williams. And he's going to throw a lot of times. What am I missing here, John? And wait, there's more. When we talk about the recency bias component of this, I don't know how much ownership is going to be in this game because Miami last week destroyed their opponent, but they did it like defensively. Oops, should have played Miami defense on the showdown. They did it defensively, and they just ran the football. They could take it easy, but when they were throwing, those pass catchers were heavily involved, but they just took over the game against the Jaguars, didn't need to throw. So if you're reading game logs and you didn't actually watch the game, you're kind of like, oh, Miami wins, but they're not really scoring that many fantasy points for these guys. But if you watch the game, you understood they just didn't need to. The defense dominated, which is crazy. Miami defense, they dominating here. They're going to be throwing nonstop.
Yeah, the game script should work well here for the Miami side of the ball. 6.5. It's another one that kind of looks a little low to some people. I know it's close to a touchdown, but I would think the public would think this line would be a little bit higher. Seattle, considered to be one of the best teams, Super Bowl contender. Miami, okay, fine, they beat Jacksonville last week on Thursday night, but we're not expecting much here out of Miami. It's just odd that we threw them when we were going over this, like who we're going to throw on these for the marquee games of the week, and Miami just never gets the nod from us. That's why I said we've got to talk about Miami here, 54.5. But if you look at my numbers, I think I have them as the number one. It's like them and Dallas as Dallas is number one, and they're just under in projected passing yardage in this game, and that's really has more to say about Seattle. So it's a good situation where you've got a team that gives up a ton of yards in the air. They don't want to really run the ball. Now we don't know what the situation is with Carson on the Seattle side. I assume he's
potential. If Carson is out, we're going to get a heavy dose of Carlos Hyde with a little bit of some of these, Trenton Cannon level backups mixed. I don't even know if it's Cannon or who the hell the backup is over there, but Travis Hosmer level backups mixed in. But you'll get I don't know. Does it lead to more rushing work?
No, I think this,
at least more passing work.
This team at some point realized that Russell Wilson is. Obviously he's having an MVP type season. Was he have 14 touchdowns here so far in 3 weeks? When they let Russ just kind of be Russ, that's when they're at their best. I think even early in the year last year and the year before, I think Pete Carroll wants to play defense. He wants to run the ball, play defense. He doesn't have that kind of a team. This is Russ's team. Like, Russ can make plays. Bad offensive line, doesn't matter. He's got 2 really good wide receivers now. This is a game that sets up well, not only for Seattle, but because of the way the game's going to play out, and Seattle's going to come out throwing the ball, I think, here, probably get a lead. Miami's got a real good chance to put up some numbers in a catch-up mode where they're not going to run the ball all that much. Fitzpatrick's got the ability. He could put up, Fitzpatrick could have big games. And against this defense, this is a game I really am interested in stacking, probably more than any of the other ones, where from the standpoint of utilizing wide receivers on both sides plus both quarterbacks.
I love it. Yeah, and I it's a rule for me. If I ever play Russell Wilson, I always game stack it because I've just found over the years that those are the games where it's just Russell Wilson doesn't tend to do well if his team goes up 21-0. They will sit on the run. And so to me, even with the Carlos Hyde and even with the let Russ cook movement in full effect, if they're up 21-0 and it's the second half, they're just going to sit on the run and they'll be successful at it, which is a serious risk on the Wilson side. But no matter what the hell happens in this game, I don't see any situation where Fitzpatrick isn't throwing the football outside of them benching him or him throwing 5 interceptions, which is absolutely within the realm of, quote, things that could happen in this game, right? It could happen. It's a greater than 0% chance that, Fitzpatrick gets benched for Tua at some point during this game. I don't think it's going to happen. They're coming off a win, but it's a greater than 0. In 2-3 weeks, we might be talking about it's a 30, 40, 50%. Like, we'll be on the Fitzpatrick death wash, maybe. But here, this idea that Fitzpatrick will not throw 40 passes is surprising. It doesn't make sense to me. I think he's going to throw more than 40 times in this game because he's going to have to, and he's more than willing to. Now, if he can, if we have this narrow distribution between Gesicki, Parker, and Preston Williams, there's only 3 guys that they throw. Isaiah Ford, but it's really just those 3 or 4 players. There's no, other tight end that comes in. They don't really throw to the running backs very much. So it's a condensed target tree, which makes game and team stacking super sexy here. Give me Fitzpatrick. Give me Parker for sure. He's the guy. Mix him in with a little bit of DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett or certainly Carlos Hyde in that mix.
What's interesting is in a few of these games we're interested in the game from an offensive standpoint, but we'd also want to mix in some of the defenses, like you said, because there's a chance with as often as Miami will throw the ball. You've got chances on Seattle's side for a pick 6 that's going to push them to there's a potential for 15-20 points on the Seattle side. I don't see it as much. I don't like we don't talk about defenses often. I don't like playing defenses against the good quarterbacks, especially a guy like Russ doesn't really turn the ball over much.
No.
But Miami, I mean, like you said, Fitzpatrick could throw 5 touchdowns or 5 picks. We don't know.
It's within the realm of things that could happen, and not like wouldn't blow my mind. 5 would be a lot, but like 3 picks from Fitzpatrick would kind of be like, okay, kind of not shocked. 2, probably expected. I'd be surprised if he threw less than 2. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine if we could find the prop for Fitzpatrick doesn't throw an interception in this game, it's got to be like plus 250. You know what I'm saying? Like the chance of him not throwing 1 is pretty low. So there we go. I love this game. Stack it up, both sides. But I think oddly, the safer passing offense is probably Miami here because there's always that chance that Seattle defense dominates a little bit. And then they just sit on the run, and then, and the Seattle side disappoints. But if this game does what Vegas thinks it's going to do, there's going to be lots and lots of points to go around. I love it, and I'm excited for this game, and I'm excited to stack it up because freaking that Miami team is pretty damn cheap. All right, we got 2 more to go. The Patriots travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs come in as 7-point favorites with a 53.5-point projected total in this one. There are some angles here, John, that I'm very fascinated by, but I'm first looking at that round number, that little 7 there. And it's a really, that's that number where it gets us on the fence here. What do we got to do? Now, number 1, I want to ask you just a general sports gambling philosophical point. How much are you willing to pay to get that to minus 6.5? Or like how important is it for me to like comparative odds search, just find that minus 6.5 so I can at least get the 7 points or get the win if it hits the 7? Like, what's that worth to you?
Yeah, now I'm trying to think of the exact numbers, but you're going to pay like 20. You're going to usually pay like a quarter, 25 cents on the juice. So if it's a minus 110 game, you might pay, or you're going to pay. It'll be like a minus 125, something like that, to get it off. So 15 cents juice. It's going to depend on the book. So it could be 15, 20 cents, something like that, 25 cents even. Yeah, I mean the key numbers are your 3 are obviously 3 and 7 are the big key numbers. 10, of course, as well. But a good chunk of the games are going to end on those numbers just because of the way, obviously, scoring is in football. So being able to shop for different prices, if you've got the ability to have different books, if you live in a state where you have multiple options, that's a really it's a big advantage. So if you like New England and you can find 7.5 out there, you're going to want to jump on that. Obviously, if you like Kansas City at 6.5. If you could find a book, and often you will find books that do give you will offer 6.5. They might be a little bit more juice, might pay maybe minus 115, but it's worth it if you can. Yeah. If that's the side you like, those key numbers are critical, and it's often while you won't see a game. People ask me all the time, a game opened at 6.5, let's say, now it's 5. And they'll say, well, why did it move so much? It really didn't move nearly as much as the game from 7 down to 6.5. Those are the games that mean a lot more. The games will fluctuate in between key numbers a lot more than they will on the key numbers. So, yeah, so there's a lot of built-up juice around that. Now, the Patriots are really interesting offense under Cam. We've seen a few different approaches. We've seen a game where Cam needed to throw, let Cam, dress up. I don't know. What I need an equivalent to let Russ cook for Newton. But we'll get that figured out. But we've seen a game where Newton had to throw a lot, and he, it just was spectacular across the board at Seattle in week 2, 44 attempts. All the wide receivers got in on the action. He still ran for 11 rushes. He scored 2 touchdowns with his legs, 40 fantasy points. We've seen him do great things. We've also seen last week a game where they fully just controlled it with the running game, and Rex Burkhead and went crazy, and Cam didn't do almost anything, put up 12 points. So, and that was because the Vegas Raiders, I can't even say it. The Vegas Raiders weren't able to perform offensively against the elite New England defense. Now we get the Chiefs. And what did the Chiefs do? They score.
And how often do they score? Very frequently. Do they care who the defense is? Hell no, right? They are the best offensive team in the league, maybe outside of Seattle. Seattle better offense right now? Yeah, I'm going to say. But like they're right there. So they are the strongest offense. They will beat your great defense, which means we're going to have to let Cam, dress up. I'm calling that. Let him wear a costume. I don't know. I need something. No, think of it. Guys, give me some ideas in the chat. But Cam's going to be throwing here. And there are some very cheap. Now, the Chiefs are a good pass defense, but there are some very low-cost weapons in this New England passing game that we can take advantage of to make lineups happen and look really, really good, John. So what do we have for Cam Newton to like Edelman and N'Keal Harry for 60 fantasy points? Like, is that going to be a long shot?
I haven't looked at it yet. It's probably going to be, I mean, I don't know. They'll probably be in the top 15, though. I would imagine when I sit down and actually run those numbers. When you look at my numbers that I have out there on the power rankings, again, they're kind of low, and I think a lot of that is based on the New England defense of last year. I don't think they're quite as strong as they were a year ago, but they have played. They're
good.
They played better than I anticipated. They would have had to adjust my numbers a little bit to account for that. So.
Here we go. He's got it. Let Cam go GQ on these guys. I like it. Nice work, one shot.
One thing about it from a betting angle, from a betting standpoint, the quarterback is. I'm not saying anything you don't know, but from a betting standpoint, the quarterback is really the key. And there are a few quarterbacks. When I run the numbers, there's certain quarterbacks, and there's not many of them, who actually outperform the numbers on a year-in, year-out basis. Brady has been that guy for a number of years now. Breeze, Rodgers, Wilson. Mahomes is now quickly moved into that category. I've actually put him in that category. So when I do my numbers, I have to actually adjust higher for him. And Cam was actually that guy for a while in Carolina until he got hurt. So I'm hesitant now. I don't know if I'm getting Cam of then or Cam or the Cam who wasn't quite as good, but he has looked fairly good here.
He has looked leaning. Yeah, he has looked vintage Cam. Like you have to go back to like the 2017 version of Cam Newton. That's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, you're getting from a betting standpoint, and I think a lot of the reason is just like it's the flip side where Winston, you actually had to take numbers off of Tampa. You had to take some value off of their power rankings. Their statistics were far better than what their actual rank should be, and it's strictly because of the quarterback throwing a lot of interceptions and not being efficient. I think you get the flip with that here. When I look at the highly efficient quarterbacks, these guys who actually win a ton of games, and there's no surprise as to who those guys are. They're the best quarterbacks in the league. And I think it's just the fact that they score when they have when they get into that red zone, they put the ball in the end zone, they don't settle for field goals. They're more efficient with the yardage. A lot of what I do in the rankings is based on what you expect to score based on a certain amount of yardage, and most teams are going to just fluctuate because the ball's going to bounce differently. If there's an outlier, it's generally because of turnovers in a year. Some years you're just going to have fumbles that you just don't recover. Fumbles are generally a 50-50 proposition. Maybe some bad calls against you, but there's a reason the good quarterbacks historically go outperform their numbers. So anyway, just from a betting standpoint, you're always going to find the Kansas Cities, the Brady's, Breeze, their numbers usually going to be a little bit higher, and there's a good reason for it. And even with the higher number, they cover at an extraordinary rate. So just playing the good quarterbacks will lead to a profit when they're playing, especially when they're playing bad ones. But we don't have that here. We've got two pretty good quarterbacks.
I was going to say a betting angle from yesterday or from the other day was I heard that Mahomes has never not covered the spread as an underdog.
That is, I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but I think that is. And that's another good point. The good quarterbacks as a dog, the great quarterbacks, I should say, as an underdog, you go ahead and fire away. When Russ is a dog, when Brady, Brady's a dog. Again, the problem with that is they're usually an underdog against a really good quarterback. They usually don't.
Yeah, but that's okay. But like, we don't need them to win. We just want them to cover the spread when it comes to that. And that was a really interesting. I was like, you know what, motherfucker, Mahomes should never be an underdog, and he was. I think
right.
he was an underdog for Monday. For the Monday,
They were
Monday game.
3.5.
Yeah,
3.5 points. Yeah.
Like, dude, that was the fucking easiest bet ever. So let's diving into this one. What's interesting for me on the DFS side of it is I'm looking at the Kansas City side, and I got to tell you, the Patriots defense is not a defense that I tend to choose to want to target for fantasy scoring purposes as a general thing, right? These players on the Chiefs are salaried for a 53.5 point total game, for a high explosive game, right? I look at it and I go, I think all of that is priced into these guys. And when I look at Mahomes, again, coming off the monster game, the if you didn't play Mahomes, you didn't make money game, against the Ravens, which was an obvious smash spot. Maybe, again, with 750-plus total games to choose from, maybe with Mahomes priced up as the second most expensive quarterback on the slate, or the third, right there with Russell Wilson, and coming in a little bit under Lamar Jackson, to where he's not an absolute lockdown. I like him. He's priced there, but he's not an absolute lockdown must play for me, for sure. I think he could beat the best. I just don't think you absolutely have to play him. And I think also secondarily, for DFS purposes, the difficulty in stacking him there's too many weapons. Again, it's always Kelsey or Hill or Sammy Watkins or Mecole Hardman goes off, or some other player that comes out of nowhere, or the running back does a little bit of damage, to where it's really hard to find who to stack him with, to where a lot of times I just say, you know what, maybe I'll either just do a one-man stack with him or have less Mahomes. Like, I don't think Mahomes is going to be one of the focal points of especially my handcrafted builds this week.
I couldn't agree more. This is a game. Actually, both sides of this game, I'm not in love with this game. I think there's other there's sexier matchups out there from a DFS standpoint. So I'm not totally in love with the game. Obviously, you're going to want some exposure in MME, but this is not going to be one of the games I'm focusing on. I'm curious to see when I get the numbers for the stack percentages where they're at. But I don't think. I think we'll see both quarterbacks here. Stacked with whoever their top receiver is going to be in this game. It's going to be fairly low relative to the other games. So again, there's so many options on both sides. Really, you don't know who to go. The only thing that we know is running back on Kansas City. It's pretty much just one. We're focused on one guy there. Both quarterbacks. I think other than that,
yeah.
I'm pretty, it's kind of up in the air, like you said. Kansas City at any time, it could be the Kelsey game, it could be the Hill game, it could be, Hardman gets 2 touchdowns. It could be anyone because the quarterback's just that good. He makes it happen more so than these wide receivers do. And I could actually do either of these quarterbacks solo, just because the fact that Cam, you always have the chance where he's going to run balls in, he's going to get rushing touchdowns, and I think Belichick's kind of enjoying having such a different type of quarterback. And you know how Belichick, you just never know who he's going to use down at the goal line. I mean, one week it's going to be Burkhead, then it's Michelle. He's done it for years. You just never know. Now it's almost like
not touching that.
Well, now I feel like you've got a chance now that you can get the quarterback. You've got a chance where the quarterback's going to be that guy sometimes during these games. So, I can almost take Cam or Mahomes here solo, but even that is not one of my favorite plays here this week. Newton
is relatively inexpensive to some of these other quarterbacks on the slate, which does bring his interest level up. I think, again, he's a little bit easier to stack also because of just the cheapness of a N'Keal Harry or Damiere Byrd. One of the things I noted in breaking down this game earlier was in the game where Newton threw 40 plus times, which there was one, those guys, all three of them were talking like 30% of the offense, even Damiere Byrd. So it was a 44 pass attempt game, and Byrd got 9 targets. N'Keal Harry was getting 10 targets. And that was 4 out of 44, and Edelman gets 10 or 11. So they're basically the entire passing. They don't throw to anybody else. There's no tight end to throw to. and they haven't been thrown to the running back. So it's just been those 3 guys. So for that reason, I like it. And if we assume that Kansas City is scoring, then we can expect Cam to suit up or Cam to go GQ in this one. I'm testing out them both to see what flows, guys. Let me know in the comments which one you like. A little let Cam suit up or let Cam go GQ. I don't know which one I like better, but I like them both. All right, let's move on. I think we got one more. The flaming hot Buffalo Bills travel to Las Vegas as 3-point favorites to take on the Raiders in a game with a 52-point total. Now, I think we can all agree that we hope that the Bills will keep their players in the hotel room and outside of the strip clubs and the casinos where the corona is spreading like wildfire. Okay? How do we do this, John? How do we make sure that this trip to Las Vegas doesn't end up in hookers, hoes, blows, and coronas?
I don't think there's much we could do on that one. We've already got one corona game. Let's hope
That's what I'm saying, man. I can't. Who thought it was a good idea to bring a team to Las Vegas in 2020? Whose idea was that?
Yeah,
that's the worst place. That's the worst place. And players, a 22-year-old kid in Vegas with millions and hookers everywhere. Oh, this is not a good scene. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's just one more thing you got to worry about when you go to Vegas now.
Oh, man, the Rona's everywhere in Vegas. I saw some of those commercials, man. You show like hey, come on in, and they're like spraying shit with Lysol. Like, good luck with that, all right? Like, that ain't doing shit. People smoking cigarettes in the casino. The masks are off. They're blowing smoke in your face. Corona smoke.
Yeah, I tell you,
it's the last place you want to be.
I don't mind going into the casino maybe to place a sports bet, but I don't know if it's that important to sit at the blackjack table right now.
No. There's online blackjack, please. And players, guys, you don't got to go to the Bunny Ranch. You're an NFL player. Snap your fingers. There's no need for this in Vegas.
Yeah, but you're paying for the silence.
No, man. You know all the tricks. But that, no. All right, let's talk about this game. I don't want to go here. Who's hotter than Josh Allen, the DFS Army bold calls pick for number 1 fantasy performing quarterback of the year? Thank you very much, Season Long Says, for that pick. Has been coming true. No hotter quarterback outside of maybe Russell and pretty much all these other fucking hot quarterbacks. There's been a bunch of them, Dak and Allen, right? Now we go to Russ, Dak, and Allen. Those are the trio, right? And how weird is it that we're not saying Mahomes and Lamar Jackson? There are so many great quarterbacks in the league right now. But the Bills look great. The Bills look like they're going to come out of the AFC East as the AFC East champions this season. Calling it now. Diggs could not have fit in any better. Last week, Smokey Brown gets injured in the first quarter. Even tighter distribution for Beasley and Diggs here. And you're taking on Raiders team at home that's been decent at scoring. Like they're very injured, though. I don't know. I'm a little worried about that offense and them keeping up in this game. I like Buffalo to cover the 3. How do you feel about the line on this one?
It goes right into it again. I mean, I'm generally a dog player. 90% of the time I'm on Underdog, just the way my model works. Just looking at these games, I probably won't have all that many plays. I'm not going to have that many plays because the dogs just don't look great here. Buffalo, again, is going to be a heavy public team. That always scares you, though, when it just looks so easy.
Wait, every time I have an opinion, that's like the public opinion.
It's you're part of the public.
I'm part of the public. I'm John Q. public here.
I've got, this is why I have a model, because I try to take my mind out of it, because I stare at it. I'm like, yeah, Buffalo's got to win this game by more than 3, right? Hottest team, or looked like one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, Allen. You're going to look at my numbers, and again, they're going to look a little deflated because we're going back to last year. They didn't have Diggs. This Buffalo offense is clicking a lot better than they were last year. Their defense last year was great, and I think they're still playing at a pretty good level.
Their defense is still very good.
That's so that's why this team looks really solid. There are times where Vegas just is slow to get there, and that could be the case here. Vegas has had their moments here. They've looked, the Raiders look good. Obviously, look great against the Saints in their home opener in the new stadium. But this Buffalo team just looks like a better team than that Saint team does. Right now, Buffalo looks like one of the best teams in the AFC. Maybe not talked about.
Well-rounded teams too, offense and defense.
Well, you look at these teams now. Kansas City obviously put themselves. Took a big step forward with that Monday night game. They play pretty good defense. We don't talk about their defense that much. Baltimore's still going to be in contention. Obviously, we know how good that offense is, but they also play great defense. Pittsburgh's a team not being talked about all that much. We know they can put up points when Ben's in there, but that defense looks good. So it's interesting in the AFC. These are pretty good defenses. The AFC,
by the way,
these teams.
I'm going to throw in on that list of good defenses Kansas City. I think Kansas City is maybe the most. Oh, you said. Yeah. They're like maybe the most underrated of them all. We think of KC as this team to score bonanza of points against, but that's not been the case.
No, I said that, and then you look in the NFC. It's like high-powered offenses.
No defense.
Dallas, no defense. Seattle, offense, no defense. San Fran, we don't know what's with all the injuries. We'll see what happens. But Green Bay putting up points, not totally scared. The Bears are 3-0, and that was the strength of that team was the defense. They haven't really shut anybody down. They're kind of a surprising 3-0. We'll see how they go.
Just been playing against turds.
Yeah, they've been lucky with the matchups.
Sorry, Chicagoans. It's not going to last. It's not lasting.
We'll see when we get. We'll talk more about that one maybe later. But in this game, like I said, Allen was a guy that I like to. I like to play Allen as a one-off. Now he's safe to actually play in stacks, especially because of Diggs here. He's become a better passer. I just love these quarterbacks in fantasy who could run the ball as well, because it just gives you that element. That rushing touchdown is so advantageous to have. It's putting you over the top. It's part of the reason the Breezes don't get a point. He's not throwing for the 300 yards either, but Brady and Breeze and these guys who just don't run, this new breed of quarterback, these guys throw and they run. They're giving you multiple ways to score, and it's giving them the opportunity. I mean, Allen, I believe, has scored 30 plus in all three games this year, right?
He has been spectacular. But I just want to jump on your point for a second. As this has been showing success in the NFL, this is what we're going to see coming out of college. This phenomenon is not going anywhere. Over the next 3, 4, 5 years, what you're going to see coming out of the draft, John, are guys who in the past coaches might have put into wide receiver roles or running back roles because they're so athletic, but they're seeing now that the change in the quarterback position requires the athleticism. So we're now going to see more and more players coming through the ranks, I believe, that are these style of guys that are athletic enough to really do some damage with their legs. They're dual threats. I think that is the wave of the future in the NFL. There's no way, and we'll see more of them just because as it goes down the ranks, as they see what's happening in the pros, coaches will start to put those more athletic kids in positions of quarterback, really, like at the quarterback position where they might have put them as wide receivers and running backs or even linebackers in the past because of their size. What
we had seen when you had, especially in college, when you had the running quarterbacks, they were really primarily just running quarterbacks. They didn't have the passing ability, and that's kind of the knock that a lot of these guys who had come out. Lamar Jackson had that knock, not great passers. A couple of things, and I mentioned this before. It's going to be interesting to see. Give these guys a few years. Cam, pretty good running quarterback. Andrew Luck was a great running quarterback who could throw. Will these guys last in the NFL? Will they be able to take those hits? So a lot of these guys we're talking about are still young. Let's see. I mentioned it last week. Mahomes, when he hurt his knee, not the same quarterback.
No, and Russ, same.
Yeah, so these guys they run, but they're not running quarterbacks. Rodgers has been that guy for years. Alex Smith, great running quarterback. but you don't think of Alex Smith as a rushing. Alex Smith led the league in rushing.
Let's not slap the great tag on him.
He was a great running he led the league in rushing.
He was a good running quarterback.
No. He wasn't. All right, let's not call him a great quarterback. But what I mean is, he had the ability to run. He had good. He had good mobility. But these guys, when they lose that, like Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers, you don't think of them as running type of quarterbacks, but they use their legs to really use their arm, let's say. And Mahomes
that's what Mahomes is, and he's the perfect mix of it. It's not quite Lamar Jackson, again, a little more extreme, but we've seen Josh Allen evolving into a guy who can also throw the football. And I think his passing game is maybe even a smidge ahead of Lamar Jackson even right now. He's got that cannon for an arm. If it's Josh Allen, he doesn't miss Marquise Brown wide open late in the game the way that Lamar did. He was a little off on Monday, in fairness. But yes, beautiful stuff. And what I've been shocked about on this Buffalo team, and I'm talking a lot about Buffalo because I am not interested in Vegas at all in this game. Outside of maybe a Deron Waller, I don't know who else. Like, all their pass catchers are injured, and I don't like the way the spot sets up for Jacobs at all. So, like, for me, it's like Darren Waller or bust on the Raiders side. I don't like anything. But on the Buffalo side, I think it's Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. If John Brown is out, like, Stephon Diggs has a great connection with Josh Allen, like a shockingly good one, considering they've only been playing together for like a minute.
This is a really good matchup. Yeah, so I think it's a bit overrated sometimes when they talk about the
depends on the quarterback. I think you got to worry about the system. I'm not sure that the Bills' system of go deep and I'll throw it to you is like that hard to learn.
It's the same thing with Hopkins.
Yeah,
like, I don't think they didn't need, like, Murray didn't need all that much time with a guy like Hopkins when you have a really good receiver. It's so overblown. I'm watching the Tampa game and Brady overthrows Gronk in the end zone, and they're giving him the excuse like, well, they haven't worked together in quite some time. I'm like, no, it's just it was an awful fucking pass. Like, you don't need to work when a guy's wide open and you overthrow him. That's just a bad pass. Like, they love to give these guys, they love to give them an out that they haven't worked together. No, that's bullshit. So yeah, Diggs looks good here in this matchup. Like I said, I'm all about Allen. Again, he's gone from a guy who I wanted to take solo, who I can now stack in these games. Just the running situation. Singletary, nice game, nothing great, nothing that we needed.
By the way, Singletary did what he had to do. I played him in cash. He did what he had to do last week. Moss coming back. I don't like this team when there are two running backs in play. They don't do enough in terms of touchdowns to make them worthwhile.
And again, you've got a running quarterback who can steal touchdowns at the goal line. He's got that ability where, play action, roll out, and he takes those touchdowns. These running back is, getting the running backs who score on the goal line is so important. That's why getting the guys who get the majority of the carries, you're confident. They're not coming out on the goal line. These teams that, the New Englands, who you don't know who's going to run the ball, it just drives you absolutely bananas. So, yeah, and I don't like that situation here. Now, Vegas has a running back that they use, but this is a pretty bad situation.
I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want to play that style. He'll be fine, but I don't want to pay up for that style of running back against this Bills defense, which is very, very good. All right, so we've gone through the 7 50-plus total games on the slate. We're about to go into what we call the lightning round. We're going to look at some of the more turtly games. We're going to kind of keep it brief. We'll give about a 2-minute breakdown for each game. But before we get to that, for you guys who are watching now, for anybody who's listening via Podbean or Stitcher or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this, iTunes, please do us the solid. If you like the content, if you like this type of breakdown, if you like what we do, slap a like, a subscribe to the channel, give us a like to the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us with the algorithm, helps get this video in front of more people, and it lets you know when we start recording. We do our Vegas lines, DFS and betting lines breakdown every single Wednesday around this time. But, sometimes we start at 1, sometimes we start at 2. You get a notification. You'll get to check us out live if you can. Make some comments in the comment section. It also lets us know that you watch. So, please like and subscribe to whatever channel, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you are. We appreciate it. And now we move on to the lightning round. All right. So, a bunch of incredible games, then some turdly games this week. And we'll start with a brief overview, John. We got the Colts at Chicago. Nick Foles going to be the quarterback, I think. Colts are 2.5-point favorites. Two very good defensive teams. The Colts defense has just been nasty to start the season. 45-point total, 2.5-point spread, so it's right under that 3-point sort of pitch line that you talk about. Anything to like here on this line?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game's right where it needs to be. It's going to be real interesting. This is your first game here now with Foles as the quarterback. I think it's a big improvement over Trubisky. And we've liked Trubisky, in MME for like 2 of the first 3 weeks. We've, Kyle and
he's done okay.
Guys, and he's been fine.
Yeah.
I think we're in a situation. I think we're going to be able to get Foles undervalued. I think this offense, if you watch this team, and I've watched a little bit, my brother's a big Bears fan, so we talk about the Bears quite a bit. So I tend to watch a little bit of their game film. Trubisky is awful. Like guys are running free. I think Nagy's a pretty good coach. If you remember, he's the guy who came from Kansas City. He was calling plays over there for Andy Reid, and Andy Reid doesn't let anyone call plays. He can call it up, and Foles understands this offense. So there's not going to be a huge learning curve here for Foles. I think the Bears could be sneaky. I think Foles could be sneaky. They're going to be overlooked. So I think from a fantasy standpoint, sneaky play. They also might be a lot better offensively and thus maybe a better team than people expect.
Very possible. Foles looked great. Allen Robinson smoked that game as soon as Foles came in. Of course, he laser focused in on Jimmy Graham, who's been a forgotten man for years. So there's a couple of weapons there, as well as Anthony Miller on the Chicago side that are interesting. And with Tarek Cohen gone for the year, I mean, even David Montgomery is going to maybe start to not be the worst play for DFS purposes.
They're going to use Patterson, I think, in the backfield. I think Patterson becomes the Tariq Cohen type of.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to be in there for gimmicks. But I mean, I think Montgomery is going to do a little bit more than we would expect. Now, Colts side of this game, it's Jonathan Taylor and T.Y. Hilton, and then I'm really not interested in this game from the Colts point of view. They're favored, but it's such a low total. There's so many sexy games on the slate. Yep. But I mean, if you're forcing me to play one of them or two of them, Jonathan Taylor is interesting here. Of course, the Bears, not the greatest run defense in the league, and T.Y. Hilton. If I'd like to see the Colts in a situation where they need to score, maybe they'll actually throw to T.Y. Hilton a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough. The Colts side of the ball, I think, is tough. I think you're limited on your options there.
Not super excited there.
Yeah.
All right, next up in the lightning round. This one is one of probably the most interesting of the non-featured games for me. The Bengals are at home, 3-point favorites. 3-point favorites against the Jaguars. 49-point game total, so just under that 50-point threshold. No one's going to touch this game, John. But I got to tell you, there are some interesting angles here. Number one being, I kind of think like Minshew was exposed as not very good against the Dolphins last week. We kind of saw some of his limitations as a thrower. On the flip side, that Jacksonville defense, just not good this year at all. There's nothing redeeming about that defense whatsoever. And we flip it over to the Bengals where the rookie Joe Burrow, I mean, he looks like the real deal, certainly having growing pains, certainly on not the greatest of team, but there are some passing weapons on that Bengals offense that might be able to prosper in this game environment. And the one I really want to ask you about is Joe Mixon. And can we actually get back on board the Joe Mixon bandwagon in the ultimate matchup at home where he's probably going to be favored for the only time all season?
Well, if it's not this week, then I don't know when. I mean,
are the Jets coming to town? Because that's it.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I don't know if they play the Jets this year.
or the Broncos. Like, who are they going to be favored against?
They probably do play the Jets, right? The last place teams, but oh no, Miami would have been the last place team, I guess.
Yeah,
but yeah, No, this is the matchup that if Mixon doesn't do it here, I don't know if we can. I think we have to start punting him for the rest of the season, and that's it. Fading him from here on in. So this is it. Mixon. He was a late first round, early second round guy in season long. Everyone had high expectations. We've all been disappointed so far this year. I tell you, my experience is when we get to this point in the season and you've been disappointed, and when you're disappointed by the lack of by the use, the way that a player is being used, it generally just doesn't turn around. I'm going to give him one more shot this week, if we don't see, again, you want to see that how he's being utilized in the game. You want to see that change, and I'm not overly optimistic, but I think against Jacksonville, you certainly have to take a shot. I do like Burrows. I think just in general, I'm bullish Burrows long term. This is certainly a game. Well, you look, the game could go, if it goes well like it did last week in the Jacksonville game. You had a game where Miami comfortably won that game, but you didn't really get much out of the quarterback for Miami. You didn't get a lot out of the passing game here. So, it could go that way where a team scores 30-plus points, but you get absolutely no value stacking the game.
It's really hard to pick pieces from the Jaguars to like. That's one of the challenges we're going to talk about. I don't think this isn't a game stack for me. I don't like anyone on the Jaguars as a standalone, hey, I want to play him this week guy. DJ Shark might come back, but even when he was in there, he wasn't getting any sort of volume of targets. The other pass catchers for the Jaguars are nondescript, in my opinion. And who the hell wants to try to figure out? I guess you could play the running back James Robinson, but like he's priced up like an elite running back. So I get maybe it's a FanDuel play on DraftKings at 6,500. I guess he's had a couple of good games, so there is some interest there, but not really. And I like targeting the Bengals with running backs, but man, 6,500 for an underdog, terrible team running back. It's challenging to want to do it, man. Can we go there?
I don't particularly like it at all. So I don't love the. I don't think I like anything on the Jacksonville side of this.
It's hard to like it. It's hard to like it.
Again, a small little bit of mix-in MME, maybe a tiny bit of Burrows, but on the whole, this is not a game that I particularly love.
Yeah, I guess maybe Robinson now is going to come out. James Robinson will smoke it this week and just be awesome. But I just can't mentally get there in terms of just paying up for him, even as much as I like the Bengals defense as one to attack with running backs. All right, let's move on. Next game in the lightning round, we have the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading out to Los Angeles to take on the Superchargers. 43.5 point total. Tampa, this is a stinker, dude. Tampa, 7-point favorite. Both teams play great, not good, great defense. Two of the better defenses in the league. Both teams limit opposing passing really, really well. You've also got the bonus. Tampa's just a good defense this year. They've been pretty much solid against the run for the last few years. They actually limited. Kamara scored a lot of fantasy points. He got almost no yardage against them when they played the Saints. You don't want to mess with running backs against Tampa. They're at home. Again, Chargers cross-country trip. They drop 5. They drop 7 into coverage every single play. They do not blitz. This whole situation sets up real gross to me. I don't want anything to do with anyone on this game. Nothing.
Yeah, the one thing for sure is you don't want any running backs here. Certainly not on the Chargers side. We know that as a rule. Don't play running backs against Tampa. But we don't want anything on the Tampa side either. It's a little bit of a mess of a situation there as well. You've got a committee running the ball, and quite frankly, I don't anticipate all that much, even from a combined standpoint, from all their running backs. So we're going to pass on the running backs in there. The passing game, I might be a little bit more bullish than you. I know I said, again, from the beginning of the year, the Tampa side on the passing with Tampa is going to be down from last year, fantasy numbers wise. I think we've seen that so far. I'm perfectly fine if you want to fade Brady and the pass catchers in that game. I actually like the Chargers a little bit from a from a pass catching standpoint. I think they could, just as a contrarian play, it's going to be a small play for me in MME, but I think we could get potentially some. It could be a stack that hits. I'm not anticipating it. It's going to be one of my lesser owned. I'm going to have it in a couple of lineups, but
Keenan Allen or even Hunter Henry.
Yeah, Hunter Henry maybe not. Yeah, maybe Allen and for a shot. Yeah, maybe Hunter Henry, but it's good value there. It's better value maybe than Allen, but I would say, again, we're not overly optimistic about it, but I would say if I had to lean one side and I'm going to take a pass catcher, I'm going to do it on the Chargers side more so than the Tampa side.
With Tampa, and I'll just be brief here because, again, not an exciting game. With Godwin out, certainly Mike Evans has a chance at a individually. I would never play Brady, period, as my quarterback. He's too old, but I do think that Mike Evans has an outside shot at having that game where he just finds his way into 2 touchdowns because there's no one else to really throw to, and it's hard to run against. It's not really hard to run against the Chargers, though, so I don't know that that'll happen. But, Mike Evans on talent alone could get there. And actually the play that I might like the most in this game is Bucs defense at home taking on the rookie. The guy looks good. Hilaire, he's my dude. No, not Hilaire. Hebert. Somebody, by the way, somebody it's like, oh, by the way, you're saying it wrong. I'm not saying it wrong. I'm making Hebert a thing. I know his name. I don't want to call him Herbert. It's such a weird sounding last name. I want it to be Hebert. I want him to be like basically a hockey player from Canada who's playing the quarterback position. That's just what I want. So that's what I'm doing. But I know his name is Herbert. It just sounds so lame to call somebody Herbert. So he's going to be a bear here. That's just what it is. You don't like it, you don't have to watch this. Get the fuck out. Go watch something.
Yeah, definitely a situation though. The Tampa defense could easily be a play here. You always want to target defense. Target rookies, no matter what the spreads are.
Especially when the rookie quarterback looks sexy and like, ooh, everybody wants to play him. No. I want the rookie quarterbacks make mistakes, and bad quarterbacks make mistakes, which takes me back to that Bengals game. Oh my gosh, I think we could play the Bengals defense in that one because Gardner Minshew makes mistakes. All right, next up we've got Pittsburgh at Tennessee. Steelers favored by 2. They're on the road. This game is delayed. We don't know when it's going to play out. As a matter of fact, this shit ain't even on the main slate. I'm taking it off the list.
Yeah.
You're off the list. You're off the list. Delayed game, guys. The Tennessee guys, they're out. The strip club, they got the Rona. You know what happens. Stay in the bubble. Please, I'm begging you, NFL players, do not do that. Okay, rant over. Here's a game that's interesting. The Ravens are 13-point favorites against the Washington football team, and they're on the road. 13-point favorites, 47-point total. Baltimore defense, man, you just got to load up here. Dwayne Haskins, he's just not the guy. It's not working out, John. It's not working out. If I'm a Washington football team fan, I just want my team to lose every game this year so I have a shot at the top quarterback. I can't remember his name.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. As Trevor Lawrence, I want my shot at him. Fight my Jets for the shot at Trevor Lawrence this year. It's not working out with Haskins. Even my boy Terry McLaurin's in a tough spot because Marlon Cheeto Humphrey is going to be blanketed on him in coverage. And the Ravens are just a good enough team to know if the opposing team has only one weapon that they throw to, we're going to be able to stop that.
This is a fade. Washington's a fade everybody side of that game. I don't even like it from a game script where you say, well, they're going to be down and throwing. Don't care. I'm fading that entire side of that game. Baltimore Jackson's always a play. So
no, but a full game stinker. Yeah, I mean, but it's Jackson's priced up. He has no reason to throw. It's a full game stinker. The only thing I'm not paying up for fucking Lamar. I don't care.
I'm gonna have him in. I'm gonna have him because there's no way I could totally fade him in MMA. Just that's not my style. So I'll always have a piece. But again, I don't really. This is not a game that we're gonna target. This is just gonna be. I don't like anything from a pass catching standpoint there. So it's one of those where I might solo some Jackson lineups when when he runs 3 in and throws for 2, and I get him.
I'll give you the narrative. The narrative is angry Lamar coming off the loss. comes out and just kicks ass. I think the Ravens defense is the best play on this entire game. They're the most expensive, of course. Great. So probably not going to play that either. But
they get overlooked. Yeah, they get overlooked. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of expensive options, so you're not going to have a ton of the. We're not going to have a ton of Raven defense, but and this is going to be a situation where if the Raven defense is the nuts, I'm going to get killed because I'll be way under the market. Although obviously they're a great play. Defense is really hard to predict. So when the defense that everybody takes winds up being the defense you need, it turns out not being a very good week for me.
There we go. All right, guys. That does it for the Geeks Vegas Lines DFS and Betting Breakdowns show for week 4. Don't forget, if you're watching this, you're not a DFS Army subscriber yet, go sign up at dfsarmy.com. You can use my personal friends and family promo code. You use my code GEEK, you get 20% off your VIP. Get in there before the prices go up. We're adjusting our pricing for the whole site, and we haven't done it yet because we're just slow with our technology of getting it going. Get in there now if you've been thinking about it. I promise you won't regret it. Of course, if you're a sports bettor and that's what you're into, you just want to bet the games, or you do both. Either way, go check out sportsbetarmy.com. You can get picks and get in the chat directly with John. John will give you life advice. It's not just betting picks. John, you can be like, yo, should I cut my hair like this? Or he's got an answer for everything. I call up John. I'm like, yo, I get some grass seed for my lawn. Okay, this one says Bermuda. This one says that. Which one should I get? John's like, I know which one to fucking get. He tells me, he's like, he knows it. He knows everything.
I haven't. Well, no, I have an answer for everything. It doesn't mean I actually know everything.
There's always an answer. Yeah, I believe you. I'm like, okay, I bought the fucking Bermuda grass. Fucking John, I don't know how you knew about that. I call John when I have like regular life issues so he's in the chat. He's in there teaching the basics of sports gambling.
Yeah, don't ask me about like rashes and stuff like that. I don't go to your doctor.
Do that and send a pic. But send a pic. But he's not just giving out a pick, and this is what I really love about Sports Bet Army, guys. It's intimidating to bet on sports. What am I supposed to be looking for? How do I know which side of a game? I don't even know how do I learn about probabilities, expected value? That's what they're doing in the Sports Bet Army chat. That's what John does. You ask him these questions. So, how do I know if a line is good or bad? How do I know what side of a game to be on? Those are the things that you learn in Sports Bet Army. And, of course, you get his actual picks, not just John. You get Anthony P., who's a fucking master of hockey and NBA. He's so good. And you've got Ryan in there with his models for college football, college basketball, WNBA, all the sports I don't watch. He's all over it. Even the snipers in there with MMA bets. And you've got my MMA. I fucking crush MMA. I'm telling you, it's worth it. If you just were following my MMA bets, you would have doubled your betting account, and that was it. Like, we fucking smashed this season. It's unfortunate I'm not doing them now because I got to focus on football, but I will pop in on occasion with an MMA bet as well. So we've got every sport covered. When you want action, you've got it, sportsbetarmy.com. And, of course, No House Advantage, our sponsor. We appreciate them, and we appreciate you checking them out with promo code ARMY when you go sign up over there. It's an awesome game as well. So that'll do it for week 4, Geeks Vegas Lines. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. For John and myself, good luck this week, everybody. Let's crush it.